Welcome back to Once Upon a Pod. Yeah. Where stories come alive and fangirling is fully encouraged.
We're your hosts, Megan and Grace, two best friends who love theater, books, and Disney. And we love to deep dive into our favorite fandoms.
And guess what? This is our very first episode.
Woo!
We're so excited that you're here.
Oh, yeah. And what better way to kick off this podcast than with one of our favorite things, books. Oh, yeah. And specifically, fantasy books.
Beautiful, beautiful series. Beautiful genre.
Oh,
I love it.
Oh, yes.
So, in this episode, we're diving into Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Specifically, a deep dive into Heir of Fire.
Oh, yeah. But before we go full Fae mode, we're going to give a quick recap and share our thoughts about Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, which are the first two books in the series.
And just a heads up, we're reading the series in publication order, which means book 1 through 7 first, and Assassin's Blade is last. Yes. And I haven't decided if I'm going to do the tandem read yet.
I am.
Meg is.
I'm doing it. I've started it. We'll see how it goes.
I wish you luck,
Thank you.
friend.
I've heard great things.
I just don't.
We'll see.
I just don't know. I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
We'll see.
Yeah. We read books 1 and 2 like a month or so ago. So we're not going to dive super deep into those books. But we are going to give you guys a rating, some thoughts that we had about the book. And we're also going to give you a recap of the book Throne of Glass and the book Crown of Midnight. So let's get into it. Let's talk about these books a little.
Yeah. So, Throne of Glass. We're introduced to Celaena Sardothien, a legendary teenage assassin with a reputation that's as deadly as her skills.
Oh, yeah.
After spending a year in the brutal salt mines of Endovier, she's unexpectedly pulled out by none other than Crown Prince Dorian. His offer? Compete in a deadly tournament to become the king's champion and earn her freedom. Easy, right? But what starts as a fight for survival quickly turns sinister. Competitors quickly dying under mysterious and gruesome circumstances. Celaena finds herself entangled in a dark web of ancient magic, hidden secrets, and forces far more dangerous than she ever expected.
Enter Kale Westfall, the stoic and fiercely loyal captain of the guard, and Princess Nehemia, a bold and mysterious royal from a conquered kingdom with secrets of her own. Both quickly become central to Celaena's life. Cal as her protector and growing love interest, and Nehemia as a trusted friend and confidant. As the competition unfolds, the stakes rise far beyond the title of King's Champion. Contestants begin dying under eerie and gruesome circumstances, and Celaena is forced to confront an ancient evil lurking within the castle walls. Strange symbols, hidden passageways, and ghostly visions lead her to uncover a truth far darker than she imagined. And by the end of it all, there's betrayal, romance, and more than one heartbreaking twist. But the biggest revelation, Celaena isn't just a deadly assassin with a tragic past. She's tied to a long-lost magic, one that could change the fate of kingdoms.
Enter the eye emoji.
Yeah, right? Good book. Very good book.
Yes. Then we hit Crown of Midnight, and it hits hard. Celaena has officially become the king's champion.
Yes, she did.
Carrying out missions in his name, or so it seems. In truth, she's playing a dangerous game, faking assassinations and helping her targets escape in secret, all while walking at razor's edge between royalty and rebellion. As she dives deeper into the king's inner circle, Celaena begins to uncover horrifying truths about the kingdom's past and dark forces at work. That's when we learn about the word keys. Ancient, powerful, magical artifacts with the potential to open portals to other worlds, summon some really freaky monsters, and literally destroy everything. And worse, the King of Adarlan already has 2 of them. it's not just magic we're dealing with. It's corruption and possession, and a possession of power that goes beyond comprehension. The king's dark magic isn't just growing, it's consuming everything. And Selena, who's been trying to stay in the shadows, realizes she may be the only one who can stop it, but not without loss and not without some serious pain.
Mm-hmm. And then the heartbreak that shattered literally everything and catapults the entire series. Spoiler alert, Nehemiah's death.
Yeah.
It's sudden and completely devastating. Nehemiah wasn't just Selena's friend. She was her anchor, her voice of reason, her connection to something bigger than herself. And her murder rocked Selena to her core. And honestly, it rocked me too. That was so shocking. The grief, it was raw and real, and it set Selena for a whole new path. And while all of this is happening, there's a little love triangle happening, and the tensions of that are off the charts. Dorian wants Selena. Kale is this possessive boy who also wants Selena. They're caught in this emotional storm with Selena, and each representing something different in her life. Kale is a force to be reckoned with, and Dorian has a quiet strength and growing sense of justice. But he begins to discover his own hidden magic, which completely flips his world upside down. He's no longer the charming prince. He's something more. He is still pretty charming, but he is something way more. Something powerful and dangerous in a kingdom where magic is forbidden. And then the biggest reveal yet, Selena isn't just a legendary assassin with a haunted past. She's Fae. Not just part Fae.
What?
I know, right? Not just part Fae, not just magically gifted, but the lost heir to the throne of Teresen. Teresen? How do we say that?
And that's what I was going to say, is that we read these books. We didn't listen to them. So,
good point.
Guys, we're going to get pronunciation
our pronunciation
wrong.
is
probably.
Wrong. Yes, we'll look into it.
And we apologize for that. We're going to get better about that.
I think it might be Teresen, but I don't know. Might be wrong.
I read it as Teresen.
Teresen? Okay, well, let's just go for it for now.
I have no idea.
Teresen.
So,
these fantasy books, man.
Moving on.
She is the lost heir of the throne of Teresen or Teresen. No, who knows? Someone knows. She is Aileen Galathinius. I think that's how right. Aileen
Galathinius.
Yeah. See these names. Yeah. We never say her last name anyway. She is royalty and she is power. She is a literal queen, everyone. Okay, and that moment changes everything. The entire series shifts and stakes get way higher. The enemy's more dangerous, and Selena, Aelin, is no longer running from who she is. She's rising to becoming who she was always meant to be. Man, this series is getting pretty good, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Stakes are high.
They're getting pretty good. And like we said, we're going to break down Heir Fire a lot more later. And that is really when it starts to pick up a lot. But let's talk about some ratings for both of the books, and let's just talk about some different thoughts that we had on it. So, Grace, what did you rate Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight?
Yeah, so these books were a lot harder to get into than I had anticipated. So I rated Throne of Glass 3 and Crown of Midnight like 3.5. I mean, I went into this thinking it was going to be another ACOTAR, and it's not. But like, so many people have recommended this and said that it's just crazy and so much better than ACOTAR.
Yes.
So I have really, really high hopes, but it's definitely a slower start.
Yes, absolutely. Because of the slow start, I rated both books 3 stars for me. I'm going to be honest, I have struggled too. It's been really hard for me. I started with ACOTAR into my fantasy realm, the world of fantasy. So I have just had this like really high expectations because literally,
absolutely.
I think ACOTAR will always have my heart.
Sure.
Especially with it being the same author, I thought it was going to be very similar.
I also think that the first fantasy book that you read, I think that is just going to be the one because it transforms you.
Oh, for sure.
So it's always going to hold a special place in your heart.
Oh, for sure.
For you, that's ACOTAR.
For sure.
And I mean, ACOTAR is amazing. I absolutely love it. But my first fantasy read is Fourth Way. So like that is my go-to.
Yeah.
That changed everything
Absolutely.
for me. So I think that has a lot to do with it too.
Oh, for sure.
And this is your second fantasy read.
Yeah.
This is my I don't know, third series.
Yeah.
But I've done some other fantasy like solos or just pairs. But anyway, so I think that makes a big difference.
Oh, for sure. And so I went into this thinking that it was going to be really similar to ACOTAR, and then these first two books are just so slow. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
where's the romance? Where's the action? Oh, it's gonna, nope, nothing happens. And then, so I was pretty disappointed throughout all of it. But I will say it has all been intriguing enough that I want to know what's going on. So I've pushed through, even though I've not wanted to a lot of the time. I love Selena.
Yeah.
She is great. I'm excited to see where all she goes. I mean, I've read through Heir of Fire and Queen of Shadows so far, and I'm, like Grace said earlier, I'm about to start the tandem read, or I'm starting the tandem read for the next two books. And I love the series so much more. After I got past this Heir of Fire and continued, I'm loving it way more. And the characters are just really growing on me. So, like, let's talk about Dorian. Let's talk about Kale. Let's talk about some of these characters. What do you think? Yeah?
So, when Dorian enters the picture, I had some high hopes because enemies to lovers.
Oh, of course.
That was my first thought.
Yep.
You know, he's the crown prince. She is stuck in these salt mines as a slave, and she was an assassin before she was, caught and thrown into the salt mines and everything. So you already know that they're enemies, okay? And so he shows up, and, if I remember correctly, she is already kind of like, oh, there's something about this guy. He's like kind of intriguing. He's kind of nice to look at and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, I see where this is going. And so of course you're rooting for that.
Oh, yeah.
Because who doesn't love an enemies to lovers trope? I mean, it's so magical to me.
It's the best.
And we're introduced to him when he goes and gets her from a place called
Endovir.
Endovir.
I know we checked that one. It's for sure Endovir.
Yeah. And he is with Kale, and, we're like, okay, we've got some potential here. What's going on? So I was just excited to see what was going to happen there.
Oh, yeah.
They were taking her out, and there was already some, kind of secrecy going on because he was not telling his dad he was doing this.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's going to be some type of interesting relationship that forms between Selena and Dorian.
Oh, for sure.
And,
and it really,
he comes in as this,
it's really blossomed into, a beautiful, beautiful story. Her and Dorian's relationship, it really has blossomed, and I don't...
Not what we expected.
Right, exactly. But it's so good.
In a much nicer way,
yes,
I think.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I was surprised by how that took a turn.
Yeah.
But I'm totally happy with it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember you texted me. I don't know how far into the series we were. But you were like, oh, my God, who do you think she's going to be with, Dorian or Kale? And I was like, oh, my gosh, I don't know. I love them both so much. And,
Yeah, right? So let's a good segue to Kale. I loved him from the beginning. He gave off recent vibes of being a hard A and not giving a flip about anything, but also being like, she's kind of cute, but no, gotta be professional. Also felt like a real, enemies to lovers type thing too. I really loved them. But I mean, man, their story just got so intense, and everything that happened with Nehemia and her death and her thinking, Selena thinking that Kale had something to do with it, but in reality, he was set up. They were all set up, and Nehemia was planning to do this from the beginning. All these things, it just broke their relationship, and it literally shattered me. The point where she literally went to attack Kale after she thought
that was
it was insane. Scratched his face, and the words that she said to him were, "You will never be my friend. You will always be my enemy." I was like, what?
What just happened?
Why?
What just happened?
Wait, no.
Girl, you're being dramatic.
Yeah,
Calm down. Like, come on.
For real.
It's like, come on, you didn't do it on purpose.
Literally, it was crazy.
Yeah.
The king is a loser. Palpatine, she is like so random in Throne of Glass, the first book. I'm like, who is this person? Now where I'm at now, it makes so much sense why she was in that part.
Okay.
So just keep reading. Some of these characters were just really, really hard for me to get to. But
like, I don't want to hear about this.
Yeah, but like the biggest plot twist of everything, let's talk about it. When we find out Selena is Faye. Yes, that whole scene is crazy, right? They're in.
I was not expecting that.
No, my jaw literally was on the floor. I was sitting in the pool reading my book in Florida, and I literally screamed out loud, and I think people looked at me like I was crazy. I literally was so in shock. I texted Grace. We talked about it. It was crazy. And from that moment on is really when I was like, okay, this is about to get serious, right?
Something
is changing. And
something's going to happen.
And let's also talk about, too, because, like, the Faye that I'm used to from ACOTAR, right? I was so confused at the fact that she could change.
Transform.
Yes. Like, I didn't...
From a human mortal body into a Fae body.
And so, for me, I was like, wait, how is she... She's been human this whole time. But we'll talk about a little bit more of that when we do the Air Fire stuff, or recap that we're going to do. But I just... Everything was beautiful. I loved that whole portion because I was like, oh, yeah, this is about to go down.
Yeah, I wanted to like go back a little bit to Kale. One of my favorite parts of Throne of Glass before we find out that she's Fae is when she is doing the last competition, whatever it was that they were doing. Remember, she had to fight the big guy?
Yes, and he ended up coming and holding her and helping her. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and Kale, couldn't actually
do anything,
intervene, but he comes up to her while she's on the ground, literally like, she's gonna lose, and he was just right there. That's when things really changed for me, and I was like, okay, he's serious. Like Dorian, he's really good. He cares about Selena a lot, but Kale, just like you could feel the pain and the suffering that he was in watching her go through this, and he wanted to jump in there and help her. So he did what he could do, which was just be right there and say, get up. Like, I need you to get up. I need you to live. I need you to survive this.
Yes.
I don't know. That was just a beautiful moment.
So good.
And I just needed to go back to that really quick because that is a favorite KO moment, and that's when I just kind of changed my tune.
Oh,
to be like,
absolutely.
I think they are actually going to end up together because, Dorian shows up, and it's like, that's what you expect. You expect them to be the ones that end up together. But it's really, it's not as clear as that. It's like, oh, this is just a trick. This is not actually what it is. Anyway, I just wanted to.
Oh yeah, no.
And then we get into because I remember I was at my friend's house. I was watching their dog in their hot tub, and I had my Kindle, and I was like, oh, this would be such a fun moment to like film a TikTok. It's like, oh, look what I'm doing on a Saturday night. I'm in a hot tub and I'm reading my book with my Kindle. So I set up my phone and had it recording. And I was just sitting there reading, and I got caught on camera the moment that I found out that Selena was Fae.
Yes. I was actually like, going to ask if that was like your real reaction or not. I was like,
yeah, it was real.
Because I was like, that has to be real.
I know. I was like, I just got that on camera. That was so cool. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what?
Yeah. Oh my
what
goodness.
just happened? And then that's when I was like, things just got really interesting, guys. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so
Yeah. That segues us into Heir of Fire. Selena is Fae. Kale finds out she's Fae, and in order to protect her and Prince Dorian, Kale tells his father that he would come and be king or lord in his home country. But he requests that Selena is sent to Gwendolyn, I think is what it's called. Anywho, so let's talk about Heir of Fire. Let's get into it.
So, our story takes a dramatic turn. After the loss of Nehemia, Selena is overwhelmed by grief and the burden of her true identity as Aelin Galathinius, the lost queen of Terrasen. She's sent to Gwendolyn, where she meets Rowan, a fierce Fae warrior. We also meet Man in Blackbeak, a witch training wyverns for the king's army. Her story is clearly building into something. Because I remember that was something we're like, who is this chick?
Yeah, we
But
kept texting back like, I'm so bored.
her.
Which I will say, she is very important.
Things get interesting. And I figured she was
very important.
But I was like, I want to skip all these chapters. I knew I obviously did it, but I was like, what is she doing?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, the backstory is a little, like, I'm like, okay, like, it is a little boring, but it makes you fall in love with the character a little bit. So Rowan ends up taking Selena to Mistward, which is a hidden Fae stronghold to train her magic that she has no control over. Their relationship starts off really rocky. Rowan is tough and almost brutally so, and Selena is resistant to embracing her power. But as she learns to harness, as she learns to harness her magic, she's not only growing physically stronger, but also begins to reclaim who her true self is and grow a beautiful bond and connection with none other than the fierce Fae warrior, Rowan. I love Rowan.
Ooh,
I love him.
Love Rowan, Daddy. Meanwhile, Adian, Selena's Fae cousin, and Kaol begin forming an unexpected alliance. Despite their differences, they're slowly learning to trust one another as they uncover more about the king's dark powers. Both men share a deep loyalty and love for Selena. Love it. Or Aelin, as we now know her as she's accepting. Goal is clear: to protect her and help her regain her rightful place as Queen of Terrasen.
Now, mind you, Adian is a part of the king's.
He's a big deal though. Like
he's like a warrior,
up close and personal.
He's like a warrior
with the king, and we're like,
so much so that he has like the ring.
He's part of his inner circle.
Everything. He's in the inner circle. Yes,
he has the ring.
Yes,
that is very important to know.
Yes, he does have a ring. Back in Darlin, Dorian is secretly grappling with his emerging ice magic. With magic outlawed, he turns to Sorcha, a kind and skilled healer in the palace, who not only helps him conceal his power, but also becomes someone he falls very deeply for. Their quiet, tender relationship blossoms in secret, especially as it becomes clear that Dorian's father may have known about his power all along. Back in Mistward, Aelin is growing in her skills, and Rowan is pushing her to new limits and extremes. They end up fighting evil Valgs, where Aelin almost runs out of her powers. But Rowan is her Cronam, which basically means they have a super deep and special connection. It's kind of giving mate vibes a little. But after she heals, they go to Maeve, who is Aelin's horrible aunt, where Aelin frees Rowan from his blood oath to the evil Queen Maeve. But Rowan turns around and gives that blood oath to Aelin. What the heck? After this, she finally has made her choice. She's going to return to Adarlan And not as a frightened assassin, but as the queen.
Ooh, yeah. Heck yeah. But before she can do that, we start to see everything fall apart for the men in Adarlan. The king finds out. He knows. He's been watching, and now he's aware of everything. Aedion, Chaol, Dorian, and even Sorcha. He knows they've all been working against him. In a desperate move, Aedion steps forward trying to take the blame, basically saying he's the mastermind behind it all. Meanwhile, Chaol stands frozen, torn between protecting his friends and confronting the horror of what's unfolding. Dorian, heartbroken, pleads with his father to spare Sorcha, insisting she had no idea what was happening. But here's the twist. Sorcha did know. Not only was she involved, she was sending secret letters to the rebels with the king's plans. Go, Sorcha! That part was crazy to me. I was like, what? She was risking everything to fight back, and it makes what happens next even more devastating.
The king executes Sorcha right in front of Dorian. No hesitation, just cold, calculated brutality. I screamed. Dorian is shattered. He's completely broken. Aedion is taken into custody immediately, sentenced to being executed, but it's not just about punishment. This is a trap. The king wants Aelin to come for him.
Dun, dun, dun.
So he can destroy Aelin. Then comes Chaol. He's supposed to leave and return to Aniel and rule under the king's orders. But he refuses. He defies him. And when Chaol calls Dorian the one true king of Adarlan, that's it. The king snaps and tries to kill Chaol right there. But Dorian, my heart, Dorian steps in. He unleashes his magic to save Chaol. He fights his own father with everything he has left. Because Chaol is his brother, not by blood, but by bond. He wants Chaol to be the one who escapes to find Aelin, to fix everything. And Chaol does. He runs, he escapes, but not before grabbing Demarius, the legendary sword that once belonged to Gavin, the first king of Adarlan. And in the most devastating twist, the king places a Valg collar around Dorian's neck, just like the one used on the possessed, like Narek that fought against Aelin in Mistward. Dorian is no longer himself. He's trapped, controlled, and enslaved by his own father. And it makes me so sad and mad.
The book ends with Chaol, we believe, is getting on a ship to go find Aelin. But she is boarding a ship across the sea to go to the place that once imprisoned her, that destroyed her family and countless lives. Now awaits her return. But this time, Aelin won't be running. She's going back to burn it all down. Her crown is invisible for now. But her war has begun.
Oh, yeah, it has. The end of this book, we think that it's Chaol, right? That's getting on a boat. He's not actually getting on a boat. He's just becoming a part of something very crazy that we can't talk about until the next thing. So it's not Chaol actually getting on a boat to find Aelin. But that's what I thought it was at first. So let's talk about book ratings. What was your rating for this book?
I gave this book 4.
Okay.
4 stars. I feel like when it comes to rating books, I've never been good at that because I always want to rate them higher than what they probably are. I just because I just love everything. That's just how I am.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm really bad at that. Yeah. But this, I mean, I liked it more than the other two.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. I gave it a 3.5 star rating. It still was so slow until the last 40 or 30%. It was still so slow. But like I said, I see the vision. I wish I could give 0.5s on Goodreads because I would give it a 3.5 on Goodreads.
I know.
But because there's no 0.5s, I just have to do a 3. Yeah. Let's talk about this. Obviously, what we read about this book, there are some important things that we kind of didn't brush over like the Valg. What are they? They're like these demons that are being controlled by the king.
They're creepy as
They're
hell.
real creepy.
When they describe them, and they've got this certain smell that's just like the smell of death.
Yes.
And
and now Dorian is one.
Creepy.
No, Dorian cannot be one. But they're...
I still have hope.
Yes. They're pretty crazy, I will say. But what are your initial thoughts, your overall thoughts? Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So, like I said, like you could tell from my rating, this was the best one so far.
Yeah.
Rowan changed the game for me. Their relationship, their bond, they have so much mutual respect for one another and so much loyalty. And that's where you're kind of like, is something more going on here? Which we would all be okay with that because Kale, Dorian, Rowan.
Oh, yeah.
Rowan. And, you know, we start off where he is just this big, harsh, sprawly guy who could give zero craps about Selena. Or Aelin. He always calls her Aelin. And, you know, we're like, he's such a jerk. Like, why is he so mean and barely talks to her? And then you start to see the relationship form. And, it's beautiful. And I said this earlier. I love a good enemies to lovers. And
and this is like feels way more like enemies to lovers. Especially because he's like under the blood oath of Maeve, right? Like he was, right?
Right.
So
which, you know, we find out she's just the worst.
Maeve is
just
awful.
Horrible.
She's awful.
Yeah, that's kind of where I felt like this was heading. Obviously, we don't know if it turns into real lovers situation yet. But they definitely love and care for one another. There's a huge loyalty and respect, and they just love each other. That's just it. It's not a romantic love yet, but but they just really care about one another, and really emphasis on the loyalty, because there are many parts where all of a sudden she gets so protective over him, and she like there was a scene where like they were in the kitchen or something, and one of the other half fae, what are they called?
The demi fae or whatever, right?
The demi fae, yeah. Where one of the girls were trying to talk to Rowan.
Oh, and she like got all protected.
Literally starts growling at them, like, back up. What are you doing?
Literally. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, what is this? But he is the same way. He's very protective over her. But again, there's no like romantic stuff happening. But I'm just really excited.
Yeah, to see the whole Crenam, like,
with their relationship.
Yeah, them and their Crenam stuff, like Crenam or however you say that. It's like crazy to me because like in ACOTAR you just hear about mates, right? So like you're like, oh, this is mate, but like there's this whole other level of like bonding. I really am cheering for them. I hated Rowan at first, but now I'm obsessed with him, and I hope that they become mates. Which that's a whole other.
This is interesting.
Yeah,
because we find out that he had a mate.
Yes, so that was what I was gonna say. Like,
can they have another mate if one of the mate dies?
I know, that's what I'm trying to figure out. But I feel like
I don't know.
But I feel like because they have grown this like mutual trust and relationship, like they literally tell each other everything. Like you see that throughout the entire book, that they're just like being honest and open and vulnerable with each other. Like I feel like if he couldn't have had a mate, he would have said something. You know what I mean? Like, but who knows? That could be a plot twist that they end up putting towards the end of it. But I just love the two of them together.
I don't know.
They're both just forces to be reckoned with, and they just love each other and care for, like, they just care for each other so much. Also, I loved how she is fully stepping into her powers. Like she is taking over that whole Valg scene. Like, holy moly, she was a baddie in that. She did she just crushed it. And just, there's just so much of this book that I liked. It's still, like I said, was still real slow until the last 30 or 40%.
Yeah, that's I think I remember texting you.
Yeah,
that,
like
it definitely
just
picks up like 40% left of the book. Then you'll be like, read right through it all.
Yes. Yeah. And a character that we learn about in this book that we did not really talk about in our breakdown of the book, because let's be honest, she's not really important in this book. We don't really need to know about her. Now, where I'm at now, I'm learning that it's important to know who she is, but we learn about Manon Blackbeak. She is a witch. She is training these
Those witches are
wyverns.
freaky.
They're freaky as all get out. They're training wyverns and they're doing this champion so she can become a wing leader, and there's all these things that are happening. And honestly, the reason we didn't put her in that breakdown of the entire book is because like her story is not all that important. Like at least in this
like what
book.
we said, we were like, what is this? Why are we learning about this character?
Yes.
Who is she?
Yes, at least in this book, it's very much like, what's the point? So that's why we haven't really talked about her much.
But then we see that connection with the witches. Like all of a sudden we're introduced to this man and girl.
Yes.
But then she starts bringing up the witch that Selena killed.
Yeah, Baba
when
Yellow
they brought
Legs.
the, when they came in, what was it, like a circus fair type thingy? Whatever.
Yeah, it was for the young prince coming back from school or something, right?
The long, little crappy
head prince. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And, Selena freaking killed her. But
which is like
so
nearly impossible, by the way.
Yeah. But there's that connection. So something with these witches something else is going to happen here. Obviously, we figured that out. But
and
it was
it does.
really hard to read her chapters.
Yes. Those were the chapters where they were the chapters where I was like in bed, which is awful to say, but I feel like
falling asleep too. No, I was doing the same
thing.
thing.
If I wanted to fall asleep fast, I would make sure that like before I was done with my day, I would end with a Manon chapter, so I knew that I could just go straight into falling asleep from that, which is awful. Because then I'd wake up and be like, "Oh, where am I?" And I have to re-go all over.
Happened?
I know, right? But it's just, I will say now being done with Queen of Shadows and working on the tandem read, I have grown to love Manon. There's a lot that you learn about her in the next book, so it's important. Like. Yeah. I understand why she was in the Heir of Fire books because she had to be introduced. She had to, but you don't really get to learn much about her until this next book. So it makes me excited for you to read through that and us to do a big review on that book. I'm so excited. But also Adian, like him in general, like I couldn't get a read on him for a while, right? Like he was kind of just like, what is your point here? Like we know he has a ring on him, but like Kale's following him around and is making it seem like he's like, we learned to find out like he wasn't being controlled by this ring, right? It was a fake that he's been wearing this whole time.
Yeah, so he knew from the
beginning.
Word go.
Yes.
That he needed to get rid of that thing and have a duplicate because it was bad news.
Which is good. That whole
and then
portion,
you also
that whole portion, like knowing what I know now helps you understand like, oh, there's a reason why he could tell that the ring was just off, but I don't want to give nothing away.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I remember being like, what is with this guy? And then eventually we get into kind of more of his head.
Yes.
And we learn that he loves Aelin, because they're cousins, and apparently they were inseparable as children, and he was like sworn to protect her, and he feels this guilt over the fact that what happened to her, and he's like, oh my god, she's alive, and all of a sudden you see him change, and you're like, oh, so cool! It's like he's like an older brother to her. Like,
absolutely. And there's
older.
also the whole blood oath, which we all know that blood oath was given to none other than Rowan. But also, to be fair, Aelin doesn't know that he is alive. She doesn't know Adian's alive. She has no idea. So there's just so much complexity and depth to this entire thing that this whole book,
Yeah.
it really does set it up really well for Queen of Shadows. Let's talk about some favorite scenes from Heir of Fire. Let's break them down some. So,
Yes.
what's yours?
For me, it has to be the scene during Beltane when Aelin is holding the fires.
Yes.
She like lit them, and then she's holding them, controlling them throughout the whole party event thing. And she is pouring out all her strength to keep them burning, and she is not used to using her powers. She doesn't know what it feels like when she is burning out. And I just remember, like, when she started getting almost hypnotic with the fires, like they were like speaking to her and like and all that stuff. I was like, ooh, this is what's happening. What's going on? But yeah, so she was like not realizing that the fire was starting to consume her. So she was literally giving everything until she like just completely burned out. But it's what happens after that moment that really hit me. Yeah. So Rowan then is standing next to her and realizes what's happening. And she is kind of just like not even conscious.
Yeah.
She's just focusing on the fires. They're consuming her. And he is trying to get her out of it. Like, let go. Like, stop. Like, you need to stop. And then eventually she thinks she like passes out or something. So then Rowan has to take care of her, which is just a beautiful development in their story.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So she's burnt out. They have to take her and literally put her in a ice cold bath, right? Like he has like ice powers, doesn't he?
He has wind.
It's like
he has.
Yeah, he can do stuff with the wind, but he can also freeze stuff. So he was like,
oh, yes, you're right. He can.
He was like trying to freeze the water.
Yeah.
And she kept boiling it because she was so on fire. And so he was sitting there with her the whole time while she's doing that. And anyway, it's just like that whole part of the scene where he's taking care of her is just so raw and intimate, and it's not even in a romantic way. It's just he is doing what he has to do to protect her because, again, they have so much trust and loyalty and like deep admiration for each other. So that whole part, I just love it. And then even after she calms down and her temperature goes back to a normal temperature, she goes back down to her small cold room.
Yeah.
And he comes in, scoops her up, and takes her up to his bedroom. And she gets to cuddle up in his big cozy bed. And it's just really
and they've
sweet.
been in
and
bed together ever since.
Yeah. And like nothing romantic happens, nothing like that.
Just
but
protection,
it's just sweet and the sweetest intimacy, I think. And I just love everything about that part. And their relationship just changes so much for the better.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like you said, she ends up just staying in his room and they sleep in the same bed together from there on out. And I'm just like, yes, this is beautiful. Like, I almost feel like even if they didn't end up being together romantically, I still love their relationship. I'd be okay with this, I think, because they just they fill that void that I felt like I was missing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that is by far my favorite part. Of course, I love the scene where she is with Maeve and she's a total BA. Like, girl, what? Like, that part was, of course, freaking cool. She's like, you are going to let Rowan go. And then all of a sudden, Rowan turns around and be like, I'm committed to you now.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, do you know how to be? It's almost like those guys. It's like, do you know how to be single? Like,
yeah, right.
Like, he doesn't know how to like not serve somebody.
Yeah,
that's what it kind of seems like for a second. But it's also like he's so committed to her that even though the blood oath with Maeve was absolutely horrendous for him, he's okay with getting into a blood oath with Aemon.
Yeah. That makes me maybe think, like, because he has had a mate before, he knows what those feelings are. So maybe he knew that, you know what I mean? Like, maybe he just knew that she was his mate. You know what I mean? So that's maybe why he was so inclined to just give it, you know? But who knows? It could be,
yeah.
I don't know. I will personally say, though, I loved the scene where he's taking care of her. Love it. Absolutely beautiful. It's tender. It's it's the epitome of intimacy without the sexual portion of intimacy, you know. But I think my favorite moment was when they confronted Maeve. I loved everything with the Valgs too. Like, that was so intense, and like them coming together and using their magic together. Like, that was also just like a beautiful thing, because we're sitting here and I'm like, oh my gosh, are they going to be the crown? Like, is that going to be, like, is that what's going to happen? And it happened. I was like, oh yes, okay. But when they go and they talk to Maeve, like, the whole thing was just wonderful. The whole time I was reading that part, I was just in shock, because Aileen knew exactly what Maeve wanted. Like, she just knew. And so she just stayed quiet and listened and observed, and it was honestly brilliant. Like, she just paid attention. Like, Aileen's attention to detail on everything that has happened from this point up to her going and meeting with Maeve. Like, it literally is mind-blowing to me how she's able to just point out all of the things. Like, you did this because of this and this and this and this, you know? It was honestly brilliant. And she used her knowledge to her advantage, which is honestly so powerful. Like, it just shows how smart and powerful Aelin is, and how she's going to be an incredible queen one day. Like, honestly, it's just going to be awesome. And then the moment that she freed Rowan, like, everything about that, in my opinion, I was just like, she's like, you're going to make this happen. Here's this ring. You're going to give this ring, and you're going to let him be free. And for that moment, we're like, okay, it's just a ring, like, whatever. But I will say, it comes back up in the next book. But, like, and like you said, like, for him to just turn right around and just give that blood oath away to her, like, I'm going to give this blood oath to you. I'm going to stick with you through everything. Like, it just shows how great of a connection that they have. And their hold to whatever end literally has my heart. Like, and that, I think that is a big reason why I genuinely think that they're going to be mated for life. Like, that is something that they're just going to stay forever. And it still, I will say, is something that they continue on through the series. Like, the last book I just read, it's definitely a part of it, you know? But that whole part really, really wrecked me. That whole scene is really what just, like, I mean, all the scenes where her and Rowan just have this connection really made a big impact on me and what I thought about the book. Still slow, but the ending was really good. Another scene that I just, like, want to point out too, like, the whole Adarlan scene with the king and Sorcha and Dorian and Adian and Kale, like, that whole thing there, it was so chaotic through the whole entire thing that, like, I could not put the book down at that point. So when the king killed Sorcha, I was shocked, like, literally shocked. I'm like, she literally is so innocent, like, just leave her be. But no, of course not. Why would he leave her? Leave her alone, you know?
But it's also like, he just does not give a crap.
Oh no, he really doesn't.
He, you know, just destroyed his son, and he couldn't care less.
Yeah.
And that you're just like, ew. Like, how are you a father? Like, how are you a king?
I know
like,
so
what is?
I know so much that you don't know, and it's killing me. But yes, I had those same thoughts. Okay. I had those same thoughts too, and it's true. It's so true, because
is Dorian not his son?
Oh, no, he is his son, but I'm not telling you what's happening. There's just so much more to it that you're gonna be shocked by the time you get to the end of Queen of Shadow. He is.
'Cause I just can't imagine a parent treating a child that
Yeah,
way.
it's true. It's true. Like, it's just craziness. And that whole scene, too, like,
nuts.
the fact that Aedion gave up his spot because, like, and just said everything because I think he did that because he knew Aileen would come and protect him and save him, you know? But also the king is like, you're falling for my trap. That's what I want her to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think there's just so much depth to that entire scene. Like, Kale and Dorian loving each other so much like brothers that it literally is like,
They're sacrificing for each other.
Yeah.
They're
And that
sacrificing
whole thing,
everything
too,
for each
where
other.
Dorian shows his powers and the king is like, I knew you had it this whole time. It's
I
like,
knew it.
Shut up. No, you
Like, you
didn't.
little piece of crap.
Yeah, no, you
Like,
didn't. You leave
shut up.
You leave my Prince Dorian alone, okay? Like, come on.
I know.
So
yeah.
crazy.
So Dorian sacrificed the fact, you know, that he has powers. Let the king know he has powers, which, you know, could get him killed like that, apparently, with this king. And then KO could have just kept quiet, but then he stepped up at the end and was like, "Oh, hell no,
my
sir."
king.
And
Dorian's my king, and that made
Dorian
made
all the
king
way.
so mad.
Yeah,
it's craziness.
So I thought that was a beautiful moment for their relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we're worried about that at some points. We're like, oh my gosh, like they were so close, they're brothers, and now this girl's getting in the way. Stuff is getting complicated, but no, they still.
But yet they still had each other's back through everything, even with all the issues with Aileen. You know, it's always been like they're able to put some of it aside to like still help each other. You know, which is super nice. So, with all that information that we know, what are some of your biggest fears?
Oh gosh, I think there's still so much story. There's still so much left, and it's like that alone is scary because it's like there's so much room
for things to go all over the place,
destroy everything. Like, so that just like terrifies me. And it's like, who are we gonna lose in these coming books? What's gonna happen to Dorian? I'm so scared for him because he is just so good, and he just wants to do the right thing. He wants goodness in the world and his kingdom and stuff, and his dad is the complete opposite of that. And for what has happened to this poor boy, I mean, geez, you know, not only having to deal with the loss of Selena and all of that, but then, you know, he goes and finds a new love, and she's freaking beheaded right in front of him by his dad, of all people. And it's like he's just been through so much, and he just doesn't deserve this. He's just trying to do the right thing. And I'm just really scared for what's going to happen to him, and if he is really going to turn into one of these creatures, and his sanity is going to be gone. He's not going to be himself, and you're just sitting there like smiling, like I
don't want to give anything away. I
know you're good. I know. I just know that you know, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm just behind. I need to catch up.
You're okay.
But
listen, once you get to like 25% of Queen of Shadows, you're gonna be like, I can't put it down. Actually, I'm not gonna lie. The moment I picked up Queen of Shadows, I literally could not put it down. Like, it's so fast paced through the entire thing. So once you get into a rhythm, you're gonna love it.
Yeah, I'm literally like 8% in right now.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, I just really, really love Dorian and appreciate what he's trying to do. And now he's just trapped and completely at the mercy of evil. And it just breaks my heart to think that he could completely lose himself. But it's also scary because not only is he in the castle trapped, but so is Aedion. And so I'm really nervous how that's going to play out, and if this trap is going to be successful with Aedion. And because Aelin is not only going to try and get Aedion out, but she's going to try and get Dorian too. So those are my fears.
Yeah, I would agree. Obviously, I know the outcome, right? At least for the next book. I don't know what happens after, because I started the tandem read. But after I read these books, my biggest fear were Adian and Dorian. Like, my biggest fear for Adian, like, he loves Aileen so much. And once
he never gets to see her again.
like, he wants this blood oath, and he wants to protect her, and he wants to work for her, and wants to do all the, like, be this warrior, you know. And I was so scared that they would never get to see each other again.
I know.
I was so
just
scared.
It was they hear he hears that she is alive,
and then them not be able to see each other. Like, it would be awful. You know,
crushing.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. So that's really, like, that was one of the biggest things for me. And obviously Dorian. Also with Adian in general, they've all sacrificed a ton, right? But I'm curious to know I was curious to know what Adian would think of the blood oath being there's a blood oath, right?
Rowan.
And Rowan took it, right? So, like, what is his, like, I was worried about, like, what are his response to be to that? Like, is he going to be upset that they might be in love? Yeah. Like, what are these thoughts that Adian's going to have in regards to all of this, right? And so,
that's so
and
true.
To be honest, too, like, the blood oath, I guess when I was reading it, I didn't realize that it could possibly be, like, a one and done type thing, or that was the blood oath that Adian was talking about the entire time. So for me, like, I didn't even think about that until I was, like, sitting down and actually, processing. I'm like, holy crap, like, he could be really upset about how all of this happened, you know? But I'm also curious to know, like, how Rowan will react to Adian and being a part of the court.
That's very true. There could be some serious tension there,
right? If they end up getting to be together,
Adian was the protector when she was a kid.
Yeah.
And now Rowan is the protector. And it's like they're probably going to totally butt heads about this.
And honestly, I think I'm just nervous that he might not even survive it, like, anything to begin with. Like, there's nothing that says that he couldn't just be killed right away. Like, they're waiting for him, but, like, waiting for Aileen, but, like, also not, you know? But I'm also worried about Dorian, sweet, brave Dorian. I love him so much. I love everything that he is. And I'm just so scared of what his father is going to force him to do with this collar on. Like, his father has so much control over him now. There's not much we can know or do about any of this. And the idea of him being used as, like, a puppet just makes me so sad, because the entire time, this entire book, we've learned he wants nothing to do with the norm. Like, he wants to be different. He wants a better Darlin. Like, he wants all these better things for his kingdom. And his father just shattered it all. Like, you know what I mean? It's just so sad.
Yeah.
It is just so sad to me. But I know what's happening the next book and what has happened, but you don't. So what are some predictions that you have? And I'll talk about some of the predictions that I had before I read the last book, or the Queen of Shadows book, but I want to know your predictions on what might happen.
Yeah, so at first, like, and part of my heart still absolutely wants this, is Rowan and Aelin to get together romantically.
Of course.
And you kept bringing up, you know, the mating bond and all this stuff. And I don't know. I don't feel confident that they would become mates just because he's had a mate before. Yeah. And I just don't know how that works if he's able to mate again. Yeah. I don't know. But either way, I predict that there could have an incredibly strong relationship. Whether they do somehow mate, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something they discover, it's something stronger than being a mate. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I also know that there's a lot of story left, and more people are going to be introduced. So I also don't know.
Yeah. So
I don't know. Like, we could totally take, you know, we thought it was going to be Dorian.
We thought it was going to be Kale.
And then Rowan jumps in. What if it's not Rowan? What if it's some other character we have not been introduced yet?
You're so right.
Now I'm thinking about that.
Yeah. So with that, how do you think Rowan and Kale, like, do you think if they meet, how they'll react to each other, how they'll be, like...
They are not going to like each
other.
Oh,
I doubt it. I have no idea how that's going to be.
they are not gonna like each other. I can already sense that they both have strong personalities.
yeah.
And
They're gonna butt
and
heads
they
for
will
sure.
not be definitely.
Oh, yeah.
They will not be afraid to disagree with one another and be like, what you're doing is not good for her at all. And he's gonna be like, no, what you're doing is not good for her at all. And they're gonna say they have Aylin's best interest at heart, but there's also gonna be some, jealousy and some other feelings that are going to be thrown into the mix.
Absolutely.
And it's not going to be all about Aylin's well-being. But yeah, they're both, I feel like, very hard-headed men.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that would be very interesting if they meet whatever goes down there.
Yeah. So what do you think?
I don't know.
What do you think about the vision that she was given from the Valg Prince, Narok? About her future court and who all was there and a part of the court. I think she had all the the keys. I think she has all those, but I can't remember fully in details what all of the vision was. But in that vision, Rowan is there. In that vision, she can for sure see. And then there are a few like hooded figures like in the shadows. Who do you think those could be?
Yeah. I mean, this part is a little bit hazy for me. I'm not gonna lie. I'm having trouble remembering this.
It was kind of random. It was during when she was fighting the Valk. Like she was in this whole trance and she's hearing all these, like seeing all these memories and thoughts, which we see that Aelin had met the king of Adarlan beforehand as a little kid. Do you remember that?
Kind of.
And she had met Kale and she had met Dorian. Like she had met all these people, right?
She's met them before.
She has met them and nobody knew.
But
so we learned that from
she
the
was
Valk.
Aelin back then.
Yes.
That's right.
She was. And
but
the king was trying to get into her head. Yeah, all these things. Obviously, my hope for Aileen's court is like Rowan. Like, I would love for Rowan to be king one day. Like, I would love that. But I also understand if they don't. Like, But I kind of hope Kale is a part of her court. I kind of hope Adian is a part of her court.
I hope Adian is there.
If he survives, Like, there's just so many things.
Please. That is actually, like, I want Adian there so bad. But I just have a really bad feeling that he's not going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably a big fear. That was a big fear for me when I first finished this. I was like, it would be so sad if he never got to meet Aelin, like, or see her again, like, as the BA she is right now, right? Like, I don't know. He just cares so much for her, and it would just make me so sad. And then what do you think about Manon? What do you think her role is going to be?
Yeah, so we're obviously, what we see of her in that book is her training and doing these war games with these other groups of witches to find the best people for the job. And so it's like something's obviously happening with this. They're obviously going to show up at the next book in a big way. I don't know what that is, but they are going to be part of the king's army.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
So I know I just know she's going to have a bigger part in the next book. But also you can see her kind of struggling with some things at the end of this book, kind of like she's kind of having internal battles about what she's being forced to do and she, so that will be really interesting to see too.
Yeah.
Kind of see whose side she stays on. Or whatever, because also, she bonded with a very interesting wyvern that nobody expected.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's something very important to note as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like Braxis can help change her.
Braxis.
Because of their bond.
Yeah.
And so I am intrigued about that to see kind of where that goes. Because, right now she had BLTC.
Yeah.
And she's fierce, but you can see some wheels turning, some heart changing. Something's gonna happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also, I wanted to ask you, did you know what wyvern were before this book?
No.
Did you have to look up what they are?
If I'm being honest, I just assumed they were like similar to a dragon because they have wings. So I was like, oh, they're kind of like scarier version of a dragon, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. But so they are in the Fourth Wing series, Wyverns.
Okay.
Dragons and Wyverns.
Okay.
The Wyverns are the bad ones.
Okay.
We don't like Wyverns.
Okay.
And something else to note, dragons have 4 legs. Wyverns only have 2.
Wait,
So
what?
very interesting. I know. If you like actually Google it, it'll tell you that dragons have 4 legs, wyverns have 2. So actually, have you watched any of Game of Thrones or anything like that?
I have not.
Oh. Well, the dragons that they have in Game of Thrones are actually wyverns. They call them dragons, but technically they're wyverns because they only have 2 legs.
Gotcha.
And you would see that if you watch the show.
Okay.
Anyway, I found that really interesting. But when you read Fourth Wing, you'll learn a lot more about
Gotcha.
them.
Okay.
So, anyway.
Yeah, I just assumed that they were similar to dragons. So I guess I should look them up and see what they are.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I am super excited for you to read this next book or finish it. And so we can deep dive into that. And hopefully by the time we get around, we'll have a few more books up our sleeve that we can talk about. But that is the deep dive for Heir and the Throne of Glass and the Crown of Midnight. These episodes are not going to be normally this long, but we had so much that we needed to crush into this one episode. So this will probably be one of our longest.
We had 2 other books.
So this will probably be one of our longer episodes. But after that, we're just going to be doing one book when it comes to our books. So we're going to do... So the way that this podcast, just so everybody can follow and know what we're wanting to do, is every week it's going to be either a book, a Disney, or theater themed, like Broadway themed. So obviously this podcast is books. The next is going to be Disney. And then of course after that we'll go through all things theater. We love theater. But we're super excited.
So excited. But I was going to say, before we go, Meg has this little riddle about something we'll talk about next week.
Yes.
So see if you can figure it out, but you'll have to tune in next week to get the answer.
Yes. So before I say it, I do want to say at the end of every episode, we're going to do something a little fun. Sometimes it might be a riddle. Sometimes it might be a little game. Sometimes it might be, I don't know. We'll just have little things every now and again just to end the podcast off on a fun note. Not that what we were doing wasn't fun, but it's just something to have engagement and just have fun in. So here's our riddle that's going to help you know what we're talking about next podcast. It is... I hide in a land where time stands still, yet thrills and wonders fit the bill. You might hear ghosts in a stretching room, or a bride in a wedding gloom. A mountain roars with a runaway train, while jungle jokes are quite insane. Past Davy Crockett and rivers wide, which magic kingdom land am I?
Ooh. Ooh. I love it. If you think you know the answer, you can DM us on Instagram or TikTok at OnceUponAPod25. And you have to tune in next episode to hear the answer revealed.
Yes, and don't forget we are taking book recs for a monthly book club. I'm so sorry. Words are so hard. To get us connected, we're gonna start doing monthly book club stuff. So we're gonna pick a book or a series and we're gonna read it and then we're gonna talk about it as a part of our book stuff. Obviously, once I read through all of the what is it?
Fourth Wing?
Yes, Fourth Wing. I was going to say Ring of Fire, and I was like, that's totally not right. I know, I'm sorry. Once I read...
That's a Johnny Cash song.
I know. Once I read through the Fourth Wing, we're going to do a big episode on that, and we'll talk about that.
Big episode, y'all.
Big episode. It'll be a big episode. But
Yeah.
that is all for today's episode. Thanks for listening in. And
we appreciate you all. We hope you'll
Yes.
keep tuning in to following episodes.
Yes.
So-
And we will see you guys all next time. Or you guys will all hear us next time.
Or you'll hear us next
Yeah.
time. Yeah, you may not see us. That's okay.
Yes,
That's fine.
yes. Bye, everybody.